back to my kitchen friends. Today I would like to talk to you about zucchinis. There's so many of them, and I didn't check on them one day and all of a sudden they have grown into these gigantic baseball bats. There's so many of them and we're growing tired of them already. We have made zucchini bread, zucchini boats, zucchini lasagna, zucchini soup, zucchini everything. What's next, right? Next thing, I'm going to be running over to our neighbor's yard, ringing the doorbell and leaving them on the front steps and running back. So I want to show you what else you can do with zucchini that's actually going to be very nutritious and helpful to your immune system. I'm talking about fermentation. That's right, fermentation as a natural probiotic for your gut health. Okay, so let me show you what we will need today. At least that is my recipe. There's so many other recipes, but let me show you what I'm going to be using. So I'm going to be making a lot today, so I'm using a big gigantic jug. This is 3-liter jug, but if you don't have one of these big ones, it's okay. You can use any glass container, just don't use plastic. And you can use just a quart jar, that's fine as well. I'm going to need cold, clean water. The water should be non-chlorinated. So if you use tap water and it's chlorinated tap water, make sure you get filtered water. I have well water. I'm going to need salt, and I'm using pink Himalayan salt, but you can use any salt that is not iodized. Okay, no iodized salt. So you can have kosher salt, you can have Celtic salt or Himalayan salt. Then I'm going to be using few other things, and let me show you what I've got. Okay, I have bay leaf, and I have 2 of them for my big 3-liter container, but for 1 quart I think 1 will be sufficient enough, just 1 bay leaf. Then I have about 10 peppercorns right here, and I did not count but a few of juniper berries. Then I have fresh garlic. Again, I have 4, well, if you cut this one because it's so big, I have really 5 garlic cloves, but for a 1 quart you don't need that many. Probably 2 will be sufficient enough. Okay, then I have dill, and I'm using the crowns, the stems and everything, and I chopped it up into a manageable size, so I'm going to be putting that in my container. I have, this is black currant leaves. These are young leaves. If you don't have black currant, you can have oak leaves, you can use cherry leaves, something like that, because these are tannins, and tannins are a chemical that's going to keep your vegetable crisp. I also have horseradish leaf. If you don't have it, you can ask at a farmer's market, and I'm sure many farmers have it and they will get that for you. So if you don't have horseradish leaves, that's fine. You can use any other edible green leaf from your garden. You can use kale, cabbage, something like that, because they will all work. So first thing, we're going to be making a brine. And the brine that I like to do is simple salt and clean water from my well. The combination is 2 tablespoons of salt, 2 tablespoons of salt per 1 quart of water. 2 tablespoons of salt, okay, per 1 quart of water. Now you may say, well, why can't I just take a jar filled with my vegetables and then pour salt? No, because it's about the brine. So you may not need to use that much brine if you create. So you always create it separate, okay? You mix it with water, make sure it's dissolved nicely, okay? and then you pour it into your jar filled with vegetables. All right. So I'm gonna let it sit for a little bit. The water is turning a little pink because it's a natural salt that's not bleached. Okay, and it has a lot of other minerals besides just the sodium chloride. Himalayan salt has a lot of essential minerals that we need for our bodies. So I'm gonna let it sit for a little bit, let it dissolve, and I am gonna start filling my jar with all the essential beautiful things. Okay, so I'm recycling this jar. I bought something at a Russian market once, so I'm gonna be putting my horseradish leaf on the bottom. Okay, I'm gonna be throwing a bay leaf, few berries of juniper, a little bit of garlic on the bottom, a little bit of dill. It doesn't have to be. Notice how I don't measure things. It's how you feel. It's how many you want to put. There is no right or wrong amount. Okay, so I just threw in a few on the bottom leaves. And next what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna be getting my zucchinis ready. Okay, so how you can chop them is up to you. How do you like them? So I'm gonna be chopping them into pieces about like that because that's what's easy for me to serve. So that's what I'm going to be doing. So let me cut this in half. Hopefully the seeds are not huge. Oh, it's perfect. So I'm going to be chopping them and putting them into the jar. While I'm chopping, I'm going to tell you a story. You know, I always have a story. And the story is about how vegetables are very, very healthy for us. So there was this young man and 3 of his friends were taken captive. So this happened a long, long time ago, far, far away. There was a war, and young people from the captive country were taken as slaves into a strange land where they were not native to. And the goal was to take them. So I'm going to be adding some, in the middle of it, I'm going to be adding some extra aromatics. And the goal was to train them the language, the customs of that country, so they will basically be able to serve the new country after they were trained. They would be trained to be strong, they would know science, they would know skill of different kind, right? So they were brought to this land. They picked the brightest and the most good-looking people, and they were told that they should eat everything from the king's table, meaning that the king's table was very, very luxurious food. There was a lot of sweets, there were a lot of fats, there were a lot of exotic foods, a lot of meats. But these young men decided, no, we will not eat from the king's table. We want to eat just vegetables. Of course, you know, it was not received very well. What do you mean you don't want to eat from the king's table? Look what it's given to you. It's only the bright and the smartest can eat this way. And these young men said, absolutely not. Give us 10 days. Give us 10 days and give us only vegetables, and then compare our strength to the rest, and our knowledge and our physical strength compared to the rest of the young people there, and you will see that we're going to be stronger than everyone else. So for 10 days they only eat vegetables. No meat, no sweets, no exotic anything. And what do you know? After 10 days, they show to be stronger and more skillful and sharper mentally than other people there who ate from the king's table. So the manager, that's what I'm gonna call him, said, you know what? If that's what you wanna eat, you can eat your vegetables for a whole year. And that's what happened. So the moral of the story is, eat your vegetables, kids. Eat your vegetables. So I'm almost finished filling up my jar. And I'm gonna be pouring the brine over. If I have a little extra, I'll just make another jar. Okay, so I think it's pretty full because I don't want to break them or anything. Okay, so I'll put this aside. Now my brine was sitting here. Hopefully it dissolved more. You know how sometimes the salt doesn't want to dissolve in cold water? That happens. All right, sometimes I begin to dissolve a little bit with hot water and then I mix with cold. Okay, now I'm going to be pouring my brine. Let me fix this screen. Okay, now I'm going to be pouring over, and what you want to make sure that all of the vegetables are covered with brine, because see, the salt will not allow any bacteria to grow, so I need more. So see how I filled up to here? I'm going to be making another quart of brine to finish up all the way to the top, because you want to make sure that all of the vegetables are covered completely with brine and nothing is exposed to the air. Okay, so I made a second quart of brine. Oh, one little escaped, little peppercorn. And I'm going to make sure that everything is covered. All right. All the bubbles escaping. Okay, now you want to cover everything at the top. So make sure that the vegetables are not rising and being exposed to the air. So I'm gonna take my horseradish leaf and I'm gonna make sure that everything is covered. If a little bit pours out, that's okay. You can use a cabbage leaf to do that because it's gonna help with keeping everything down and it's gonna keep everything nice and crisp. Okay, so now I'm going to put a cover here. Now they sell, if you look on Amazon or other fermentation websites, they have special kind of burping covers. I'm not that fancy. So on my homestead, we have to be creative. So instead, I just gonna put a little plate, so like a saucer plate over this to make sure that nothing lands here, no bugs, nothing gets here. And every day I'm gonna check on my fermentation. I'm gonna see more and more bubbles coming up. I'm gonna make sure all those bubbles are gone, okay? I'm gonna be checking, make sure that there's no mold growing. Sometimes you may see tiny little film, this white, like not mold, but almost like yeasty film creating at the top. It's okay, it's normal reaction. Just scoop it and throw it away. As long as it's no different, like yellow, brown colors, then that would be a problem. But if everything was washed and cleaned and it's everything covered with salty solution and everything is under the solution, there's no aerobic bacteria will grow. So it's gonna be just fine. So I'm gonna cover this with a little plate, just like that. I'm gonna put a towel over this and I'm gonna keep it on my counter for about 3, maybe 4 days. And after the 3rd day, I'm gonna keep tasting to see if I like it, if it's fermented enough for me, okay? At that point, if I want to stop the fermentation, I'm going to move it into a cold place. Cold like refrigerator or a root cellar or a cold basement, but somewhere cold, because the cold temperature will stop fermentation or at least slow it way down. So friends, be encouraged. There's another way to utilize your zucchinis. There's no need to threaten your neighbors with zucchinis on their front porch, okay? And if you're tired of making zucchinis for your family, don't get discouraged. There's fermentation. So you can put a little bit of natural probiotic on your dinner table every single day, okay? So stay encouraged and try something new.